Fellow governors, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the government of Switzerland, I extend my gratitude to the government and people of Equatorial Guinea for hosting this year's annual meeting of the African Development Bank Group. Switzerland attaches high importance to a regionally integrated Africa. We are convinced that integration leads to a stronger and more prosperous Africa that has to harness also robust social and environmental gains on the continent. Increased trade is the result and the enabler of a private sector that invests, grows, and creates jobs, especially for women and young people. The emergence of larger domestic markets holds great potential for development in many African countries and attracts more private and public investments. The African Continental Free Trade Area has the potential to create a single market worth over 1 trillion per year. We congratulate all countries that have signed this agreement for this major historical step, and we urge all stakeholders to underpin it by specific actions to harness the potential in an optimal and sustainable way. As the premier African multilateral agency, the African Development Bank Group supports Africa's regional integration. Switzerland reiterates its full support for the bank's regional integration strategy because it is solid, focused, and based on the right pillars. Switzerland supports the bank's efforts to provide necessary finance for regional integration, contributing to energy generation and distribution. An example is the cooperation between the AfDB and the West African Power Pool, which is integrating national power grids into regional power pools. Switzerland highly appreciates such efficiency gains in public service delivery. By doing so, we must invest into future-proof approaches that favor renewable energy resources, protecting the environment and the climate. Switzerland welcomes the AfDB's support for rules that govern the free movement of goods and persons. Its contribution to knowledge sharing is particularly significant, taking as an example the Africa Visa Openness Index. The African Development Bank must do more to support Africa's competitiveness. Developing local capital markets through co-investments and de-risking instruments is one critical element that provides much-needed finance for trade and supply chains across borders. Local capital markets and the local entrepreneurial ecosystem are also key for the emergence of young entrepreneurs with innovative business approaches. The Boost Africa initiative builds up the African venture capital industry and supports startups across Africa. Switzerland, through the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, supports this initiative and signs a partnership agreement with the African Development Bank during this annual meeting to implement its eLab, which is a pivotal component in this project. Regional integration will, however, not become a reality without political and economic stability. Good governance, efficient and accountable institutions, as well as space for civil society are preconditions. In this regard, the rising debt level throughout Africa is a growing concern. Greater transparency and more sustainable financing practices by all stakeholders are needed. The underlying reasons for debt vulnerability in Africa need to be addressed by the African Development Bank in full alignment with the IMF and the World Bank. Contributions to strengthening resilience and reducing fragility are therefore crucial and need to be continued on the basis of reliable assessment instruments such as the Country Resilience and Fragility Assessment. The African Development Bank alleviates the root causes of forced migration by improving the economic and social perspectives among its member countries. While recognizing that this is a complex phenomenon, highly country-specific, we ask the bank to pursue its efforts to foster opportunities for local populations and to enable sustainable livelihoods in their own countries. The solution lies in skills development, job creation, and decent work, while avoiding the detrimental brain drain. The 7th general capital increase and the 15th replenishment of the African Development Fund provide excellent opportunities to strengthen the bank to become fit for purpose and most useful to all its members. Results and impacts are at the core of the bank's operations and culture. In this sense, we welcome its efforts to increase synergies between the bank and the fund. It is important that ADF countries will see tangible benefits of the GCI. On the institutional capacity, we salute the positive improvements resulting from the structural reform and decentralization process developed by the last GCI. Alas, and as confirmed by the DBDM evaluation, further efforts are needed, and management has to address several points to bolster the bank's capacity to deliver. This includes, amongst others, to strengthen human capacities at the bank and in the field, focus on improving quality across the whole project cycle management, and ensure that the oversight instruments effectively function. Ladies and gentlemen, Switzerland is an active and dedicated member to the bank. We reaffirm our support to the African development and the crucial role of the African Development Bank Group. We remain strongly committed to multilateralism and international cooperation and wish to see that the bank lives up to its fullest potential, to the benefit of its membership, as well as to an effective and efficient multilateral system. We thank President Adesina, management, the board and staff for their commitment and dedicated work.